In this session, we want to look at different types of IP version 6 addresses. We have what we refer to as a unicast address. This is a packet that is delivered to one interface on the network. And then you have the multicast address where you have a packet being delivered to multiple interfaces. Then there's the Anycast address where you have a packet being delivered to the nearest of multiple interfaces. In our session, we want to concentrate on the unicast and the multicast type of addresses. We want to bear in mind that for the unicast addresses and the multicast addresses, the leftmost fields of the IP address contain what we call the prefix, and that prefix is used for routing IPv6 packets. In your exam, you will most likely have to identify the type of IP address, and you'll be able to identify the type of IP version 6 address by its prefix. So I want you to pay attention when we're looking at the prefixes for the different type of IP addresses. The first type of IP address we want to look at is called a global unicast address. And this type of address is the address that is used to communicate on the internet. We say it's routable on the internet. And that is equivalent to a public IP4 address, which is an address you use to communicate with on the internet. The global unicast address has a prefix of 2003, or we can say 2XXX, where X can be any hexadecimal number. Then we have another type of IP version 6 address, which is a link local address. As the name suggests, it's a local address. This means it can only communicate with other nodes within the same subnet. And that is equivalent to the IP version for a PIPA address, which is a 169.254.0.0/16. And you will see that address if your node is not connected to your domain. That means your DHCP server is not running, is not giving out an IP address. You will see that you have a 169 address. So you can only communicate on the local network with this type of address called the link local address. So your traffic, your network packet, never goes outside your local network. The format prefix for the link local address is FEA0/64. A link local address can also be defined by a prefix FE010. Then we have the site local address, which is equivalent to the IP version for private address range, which would be the address range that you would use within your organization or company. So this site local address will be used to communicate between computers within the same site. So you might have a number of networks that would make up your site. A site local address will be used to communicate with other nodes within the same site. The format prefix for the site local address is FEC0/48. We also have special addresses, and you have the unspecified address, which would be the address that is used to indicate the absence of an address. So if a computer does not have an address, this is what you would see for the IP6 address. Or you would simply see the 2 colons, which specify the zeros. For the IP4, if there's no address, you would just simply see 0.0.0.0. Another special address is the loopback address. And this loopback address is written as 000000001 or simply the 2 colons and a 1. And that is used to identify the computer address. So if you want to ping or test your own computer, you would actually be pinging the loopback address. Any packet addressed to the loopback address is never sent on a link or forwarded by an IP version 6 router. Then you have the multicast IP6 addresses, and these types of addresses will identify multiple interfaces on your network. So a packet then can be sent to multicast addresses. This means that the packet can be delivered to all the interfaces that are identified by that multicast address. The format prefix for the multicast address is easy to remember because it begins with FF. You cannot use the multicast address as a source address. So we have the link local address, we have the site local address, we have the multicast address, we have the global address, and we need to know and remember the format prefixes for each of these addresses. I'm sure you will see them in some form in your exam. The last thing that we're going to talk about for the IP6 addresses would be the transition technologies for IP version 6, and we will cover that in our next session. This is the end of this session, and I want to thank you for listening.